What's good, guys? Cribboat here, and today I have my Yu-Gi-Oh! June 2023 meta tier list. Now, before I begin, I want to say a huge shout out to Jack for making this list. It's just the first one that came up on tiermaker.com, so yeah. But anyway, shout outs to him. And yeah, let's begin with Adam Emancipator. I'll put Adam Emancipator tier 2.5. It has lost a bit of the supporting cast that made it ridiculous, like Black Dragon, Link Cross, and Hulk. So it definitely is a shell of what it used to be, but the cards themselves are still pretty cool, and it has seen a bit of regional success, so I'll put it in tier 2.5. Geist, I'll put in Rogue. It kind of has been outclassed by the new control decks like Lab and Eldritch, but the cards are still cool, so I'll just put it in Rogue. Be nice to it. Cash, definitely still tier 1. It has lost a bit of the aggression and the kind of that first turn pressure that Diabolosis put for it, but Rise Heart is still a ridiculous card, and I think that people should still respect this deck, and it's still going to be a strong meta contender. Beat Trooper, I haven't seen this deck in years. I'll put this in meh. Black I'll put in Rogue. It's still a little bit wise to success. Like a Blackwing made day 2 at Philly, but realistically, that's kind of the most I can see it doing. Full Armor Master is pretty cool, but I don't think it is enough to break it into that tier 2.5 deck. Tier 1 for Branded. Branded's ridiculous. I think that people are going to start to respect it more with like Bishil's Barrier, Anti-Spell Ash, and that's going to make it a little rough since it's hard to play through those cards. But if you resolve Branded Fusion, you're still in a good spot no matter what. Like, you're usually winning that game if it resolves. And I think that a card being so powerful like that for a deck like Branded just is enough to make it tier 1 all on its own. And even still, I think it's the second best deck. Sour Dragon, I'll put in Rogue. Same with Burning Abyss. They're just solid decks. Shout out to Shaq. Dark World I'll put top of tier 2. Now, this deck I think could even be a tier 1 deck. I think people need to respect it still. Being able to rip your entire hand turn 1 is just ridiculous. And the fact that when it pops off, it's so resilient to hand traps just makes it like super good. I'll put Pure Yang Zing is bad. Trust me, Denglong has not fixed this deck. Yang Zing is not good. Trust me, though, I love this. Like I love Yang Zing cards, but like Denglong isn't enough to make this deck like playable in this day and age, unfortunately. Yeah, I'll put Pure Dogmatica tier 2.5. These cards are cool, like they do a lot, but it's just not enough, in my opinion, to make it a tier 2 deck. Like, they do some stuff, and the Dogmatica cards are cool, like Ecclesia's cool, Nadir's cool, Flora's cool, Maximus is cool, but the rituals aren't that fantastic. Like, they don't do what you would want for it to be a tier 2 deck. Pendulums I'll put in tier 2. Definitely solid. I think that now that Cash can't really lock those two zones turn 1, unless they open Insane. I think this deck has become a lot stronger, and I think that people need to be ready for it, or at least know what the cards do. So, Evil Twin, I'm going to assume this is the Evil Twin Runic Sprite deck, and I'll put it top of tier 1. That's the deck that Josh Schmidt played at the 250th. I think that deck is ridiculous. I think it is probably the best deck of the format, in my opinion. You need to be prepared for it for sure. You need to know what the cards do. I think that you will see a lot of this at Nationals or whatever tournaments you play this season. Elvic, I'll put tier 2. It did see some success at Philly, and I think that is probably the best kind of stun deck we have in the format. Even better than like the Labyrinth stun builds. I think that Eldritch is really kind of showing its strength here. Flu, I'll put tier 2 as well. It has a problem with consistency, and there's some matchups that are a bit hard for it, but there are also some really great matchups, and I think that when it pops off, it's very hard to stop. Exosister, I'll put top of Rogue. It's definitely not as great as it was about like a year ago, so well, just under a year ago, I guess. Gate Guardian, terrible. Sprite, Pure Sprite, I'll put bottom of tier 1 for now. I think that the runic build is better. But the pure build is still very solid. I just think that it is slightly worse than this, and that slight difference makes it worse than Brandon and Cash as well. Pure Gold Pride, I'll put tier 2. It did top Philly, so I'll give it some respect, but I still just, I think that a pure version of this deck isn't that great. The Punk build, I'm a bit more of a fan of, but just the pure build, I'm not too sure about. Agnister, I'll put it bottom of tier 2.5. It's not that great right now, but you know, I can see it doing something in the future. Lab, I'll put ahead of Branded, but below this live food and Sprite deck. I think that IKEA, which is kind of the build that, you know, the best build, is insane. I think that it provides layers to the deck in a grinding game that is really just insane if you play it properly. I think that if you know this deck well, it is incredibly hard to beat. And I think that if you aren't prepared for this, yeah, it will cost you. I think this is Vanadium. I'm not really sure what these cards do. I'll put it bottom of tier 2 just so that I'm not called stupid or something. I feel like that's a safe place to put it. Because I did see people playing this, but I don't know what they do. Marincess, I'll also put in tier 2. Now, I definitely could see this being top of tier 2.5, but what differs Adamantium from this is that this has top YCSs, and I think that the cards themselves are pretty cool. And so I do want to give it a bit of respect. Math Mech, I'll put it right here. Okay. This is my hot take. I think that Math Mech builds are still very solid. I have seen multiple different lists running around that still seem very, very cool. And I think that it is still definitely an option in the current meta. I think that Cyber support is insane, and it's just going to keep on coming out. So this deck will only get stronger unless it gets hit more on the ban list. Drytrons, I'm a fan of Drytron. I think the cards are cool. I think that completely stopping your opponent from monster effects is insane. I think that the consistency and resilience of the deck is also pretty good. Tier 2, again, is decks that I think will just be like, have the ability to top a YCS, but maybe not the best decks. And I definitely can see Drytron topping YCSs, so I'll put it there. Makonko, I'll put it in tier 2.5. I think that the cards are cool, but they don't have enough support right now for it to be a strong meta contender. I think that in the future I can definitely see this going here. Dinos, I'm a big fan of these Dino cards. I think that, especially with Denglong being back, there will be some routes for cool plays, so I don't want to disrespect it at all. I'll put it in tier 2. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with it, but there's definitely ways for this deck to make its statement on the meta. Swordsoul, I'll put it right here. I'll put it ahead of Sprite. I think that Swordsoul definitely isn't one of the better decks in the tier 1, but it is still a very solid contender and definitely got boosted with Denglong. I think that out of the meta decks, it's the one that can use it the most by a mile, and it makes it a bit more stronger. So definitely something to keep your eye on. Ninja, solid tier 2.5 deck. I think that the cards are cool, but again, just kind of limited in what it can do. PKs, top of tier 2.5. I think that it's gonna need a bit more for this deck to be good again. Plunder, I'll put in tier 2. So like the Plunder Runic decks, they're cool. Shout out to the captain. I think that there definitely are better options than Plunder, but like the cards themselves aren't terrible. Like they definitely do stuff. So I'll put it in tier 2. Prank Kids, I'll put in tier 2.5. Meow's gone. It hasn't really done anything since, but like I love Prank Kids, so I'll put in tier 2.5. Purely's, I'll put in tier 2. Whereabouts in tier 2, I'll put it like here. I'll put Plunder here. I think that Purely definitely got hit pretty bad, obviously, and it's not really what it was. But especially if you combine it with other stuff, I think that is definitely still a solid deck and something that you should keep your eye on. Oh, sorry, I'm a little sick. You can tell my nose is all stuffy, allergies or something. Rika, I'll put in tier one. So the thing is with Rika is that not a lot of people respect the deck in terms of their side patterns or kind of just their understanding of what it does. I think that it is always a very good sleeper option, and people have to be aware about this deck for the new format. Uh, Tier, I'll put. I'll put it here. With Cash losing a bunch of meta representation with the hits, I think that it definitely becomes stronger. But again, it's has issues with consistency, and it still loses to like other stuff in the meta deck. So I don't think I'll put it in tier like higher or even tier one. I don't think that's like I don't think it deserves that, but it's not terrible. Runic Stun I'll have here. I think it's very very solid. Um, uh, yeah, I'll put it here. I think that's very 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 solid. Um, but I don't think it's like fantastic. I think that if you are looking to play a stun option, it's either gonna be Eldritch or this, but I wouldn't recommend playing a stun option right now, especially because the format's kind of shifting to more backer oriented decks like the runic decks, like other runic decks, and labyrinth. So definitely not really primed to be the best deck. Salad, I'll put it in tier two just because it topped that one nationals. I think the cards are cool, but it definitely not what it's definitely not what it was. I think that it has been outclassed by some of the newer cards, but update Jamburn to Transcode and Access Code still kind of ridiculous. Crystal Beast is Rogue. Traptrix is I'll put it in tier two. It's yeah, I think that Traptrix is alright. Um but it definitely it doesn't have a high ceiling and the cards don't do that much themselves, so I don't really like the deck, but it is somewhat consistent, so I'll give it that. Virtual World, I'll put top tier 2.5. Again, lacks consistency and a solid end board. Super Heavy, I'll put in tier 2. I think that people are underestimating this deck. There are plenty of variations that are still very solid, and definitely be prepared to see some Wakoshi engines. Striker, I'll give Striker some respect. I think that with the right pilot, it is for sure a tier 1 deck. So I don't think that it will be as strong as people may perceive it to be currently, but it definitely is an option. I think Dragons is also one of those decks that is underrated. I think that you will see a lot of very strong Dragon pilots taking this deck to a high level, and I think that it definitely deserves respect, and you should know what these cards do. For Tri-Brigade, I'll put the top of tier 2.5. The deck's alright, but it doesn't do a lot, so yeah. Unchained, I'll put tier 2.5 as well. I'm not sure what this is, so I'll put it here. Vanquish Souls, I think it's tier 1. Just from what I've seen, I'll put it here. Yeah, I'll put it here. I think the cards are cool. I think the Vanquish Soul cards are nice, but I don't think that it's the best deck. I think that there are plenty of other strong options, as you can tell. And I don't think Vanquish Soul is the deck, but it's definitely a solid option. Punk, I will put also in tier 1. I think it's a little better than Striker. Rika, yeah, I think that this deck is another underrated deck. I think that the Gold Pride Punk deck's really cool. It plays through hand traps pretty poorly, but once it gets its end board, you're able to kind of win very easily. It's very hard to break their full end board, and it's also going to play a lot of non-ninja, which is cool. Again, not too sure what this is. Musket, I'll put tier 2.5. Arrow Mage is Time Thief is Rogue and Aturia. I'll put in tier 2 just in case it is good, but I think with Sacred Tree being limited, it definitely lost a little consistency, and really that's just it's not that great of a deck anymore, unfortunately. Anyways, yeah, this is my tier list. Sorry if my voice got a little weird by the end of it. For those who don't know, there's like these wildfires going on in Canada right now, so the air is getting pretty bad, which is unfortunate. So I think that's what's causing my allergies to act up. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any thoughts about this tier list, if I got anything wrong that you guys think, or what you guys think is the best deck, please let me know in the comments. And this is Creepy Overlord signing out.